Hello and welcome to the Potential Difference Inc. Research Lab. In this video today we're going to be looking at the law of creation of energy, how electromagnetic field photon energy is created at the subatomic quantum electron level in every current bearing wire via electron fission and electron fusion. So, in order to understand the law of creation of energy and how it manifests itself in electric generators, which perform negative work or kinetic energy reduction, we first have to understand the work energy principle. And the work energy principle says that the net work done on a body or system is equal to the change in kinetic energy, which is equal to the final kinetic energy minus the initial kinetic energy. And the work done equals the change in kinetic energy. And the work done equals the energy required to perform the work. In a case of positive work that's being performed, the kinetic energy of the body or system increases. And when negative work is being performed, the kinetic energy of the body or system decreases. Now, Hans Christian Ørsted originally discovered the law of creation of energy in 1820 at the University of Copenhagen, when he created electromagnetic field energy in order to perform positive work and increase the kinetic energy of a compass needle. So if I asked you, or if anybody asked you, to change the kinetic energy of this compass needle without employing energy, you might say, well, that's just simply not possible. And indeed, it's not possible. You need energy to change the kinetic energy of the compass needle, which is currently 0, through an increase in kinetic energy, which is what Ørsted did when he changed the kinetic energy of the compass needle with electromagnetic field energy. Now, in 1820, what observers of Ørsted's discovery should have asked him, they should have said, hey, Hans, what's the energy source that you're using to change the kinetic energy of the compass needle? If they would have asked him that, he would have either said it's the energy conversion of electric input energy to heat, which may be moving the compass needle, although it wasn't. What it was created electromagnetic field energy that was being created at the subatomic quantum electron level via electron fission and electron fusion. So in Ørsted's 1820 compass needle experiment, he was using a current bearing wire, and the law of conservation of energy was being observed in Ørsted's experiment by Ohm's law and Watt's power rule, although they weren't formulated at the time, and the electric input energy conversion to heat output energy was being performed at 100% efficiency. And so if we look at the energy conversion, if we assume that if we assume that Ørsted was running 1 amp through his current-bearing wire, and the resistance of his current-bearing wire was half an ohm, he would have been converting half a watt of electric input energy to heat energy via joule heating. And the kinetic energy change of the compass needle was being performed by the law of creation of energy. And if we assume that the compass needle had a mass of 1 kilogram and a velocity of 277.78 meters per second squared, the positive work on the compass needle would have been 138.9 joules. And again, the kinetic energy increase of the compass needle in Hans Christian Ørsted's experiment in 1820 was employing the law of conservation of energy and the law of creation of energy. So the energy required to perform 138 joules of positive work and increase the kinetic energy of the compass needle by 138.9 joules requires 138.9 joules of created electromagnetic field energy. So how is this electromagnetic field energy being created in a current-bearing wire? So here we have the structure of atoms in a current-bearing wire, and when an electromotive force is applied or induced in this current-bearing wire in a closed circuit, electrons in the valence orbit are forced out of the valence orbit, and they cascade in the current-bearing wire as electric current. When the dissociated and unstable electrons drop back down to their valence orbits, they release photons via electron fission, and these photons create and constitute the electromagnetic field energy around the current-bearing wire. Photons are massless elementary particles that are the quantum of the electromagnetic field and the force carrier for the electromagnetic force. So in Ørsted's compass needle experiment, the work that's being performed on the positive work that's being performed on the compass needle is not due to the heat that's being radiated from the current-bearing wire. It's due to the electromagnetic field energy that is changing the kinetic energy of the compass needle, and the work being performed is being performed at infinite efficiency. So now if we look at the negative work that's being performed in an electric vehicle, for example, an electric vehicle all electric vehicles employ created electromagnetic field energy in order to reduce the kinetic energy of the vehicle. So the kinetic energy of a 1,000 pound EV at 60 kilometers an hour is 138,890 joules. The negative work that is required to stop that EV from 60 kilometers an hour to 0 kilometers an hour during regenerative braking is 138,890 joules of electromagnetic field energy that's required in order to perform 138,890 joules of negative work. So the idea that negative work can be performed in an electric vehicle without energy is false. Electromagnetic field energy is both created and absorbed. So how is electromagnetic field energy created and how is it absorbed in an electric generator? So in the electromagnetic field around an inductor, a generator coil, or a motor coil, the electromagnetic field is created and populated by photon energy. And the photon energy is created and released during electron fusion. So the photons are created and stored in the electromagnetic field around the inductor, whether that's a generator coil or a motor coil. And there's a storage expansion as the current in the coil increases. So as the current increases in the coil, the energy creation and storage in the electromagnetic field around the coil increases. And in this scenario, we have a North Pole magnet that is approaching the generator's coil here, and the induced magnetic field around the generator coil is performing negative work and reducing the kinetic energy of the approaching magnetic field according to Lenz's law of induction and the law of creation of energy. When the generator's rotating magnetic field is moving away from the coil at top dead center, the created and stored photon energy in the electromagnetic field around the generator coil begins to collapse into the coil, and the process of electron fission and electron fusion is reversed such that the current, or I should say here, the current and the voltage in the inductor produces a back EMF, or a back electromotive force, a back current, while the photon energy is being absorbed back into the coil. And a generator coil can be looked at, or a good analogy for a generator coil, well, a good analogy is a pair of lungs, but another good analogy is a balloon where air is forced into the balloon and there's a certain amount of air pressure within the balloon. And as soon as the potential difference between the stored energy in the balloon and the forced input energy, when this potential energy exceeds this, then the air in the balloon produces a back pressure and it flows out of the balloon. The same thing is happening in a generator coil where the electromagnetic field energy around the coil stores increasing amounts of photon energy in the electromagnetic field. And when the potential difference of the induced voltage in the coil starts to drop, that's when the stored energy in the electromagnetic field begins to collapse into the coil, inducing a back EMF and a back current through the coil. And incidentally, the generator coil does not start generating electricity in the opposite current direction until until a south pole magnet comes into position. So we have energy creation and storage, energy absorption and back EMF creation, and then with the south pole magnet we have energy creation and storage, and then energy absorption and back EMF. So the law of conservation of energy says that energy cannot be created or destroyed. The law of creation of energy says that energy can be created and energy can be destroyed. And anybody that has ever seen the operation of a brushed motor, they will notice that the brushed motor produces sparks. The spark in a brushed motor is the instantaneous opening or disconnection of the applied voltage to the motor coil. And as soon as the switch is opened, the pressure, the photon energy pressure around the motor coil in this case, immediately starts to be reabsorbed into the coil, produces a very high back EMF voltage, which is destroyed in the spark between the commutator and the brushes in the brushed motor. In a traditional brushless electric motor, this back EMF energy is dissipated or destroyed as heat in the diode in the motor circuit. So to sum up, the law of creation of energy states that electromagnetic field energy is created in every current-bearing wire at the subatomic quantum electron level via electron fusion and electron fission when an electromotive force is applied or induced in the wire. This created electromagnetic field energy has been performing all the negative work in every Faraday generator since 1834, according to Lenz's law of induction. The stored photon energy will induce a back electromotive force when the initial EMF's potential difference falls below the potential difference of the stored electromagnetic field energy. So again, if you put energy into an inductor, if you put electric energy into an inductor, some of that electric energy will be converted to heat, and via electron fission and electron fusion, an electromagnetic field, photon energy field, will be created around the inductor. When the applied voltage to that inductor is cut off, the photon energy will collapse back into the coil. It will induce a back electromotive force, which will produce a back current in the opposite direction to the direction of the applied voltage. So the law of creation of energy says that energy can be created in a current-bearing wire and can also be destroyed. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Cheers for now.